to our online virtual Unity community as we continue to navigate through this worldwide COVID-19 flu pandemic together, knowing and giving thanks for our spiritual connection, even when we're in separate rooms, separate houses, or even distant cities. I'm Rev Vicky Elder, and I'm here with Reverend Michelle Zelenich, our Essential Sunday Service team, Music Director Denise Hedlund with Richard Conklin on drums, Council Co-Chair and Platform Robin Falkenberg, and Keith Larson and Larry Thanks helping us with soundboard and logistics. We are small and mighty, huh, right? So let's take a deep breath in. Let it out with an audible sigh as we just get here present, all the technological aspects flowing. We're sending them good energy. And we affirm Unity of Monterey Bay is an inclusive spiritual community, honoring the God of each of our understanding and recognizing the innate good and divine essence within each and every individual. Will you please join me in our statement of faith? There is only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, expressing as infinite God beyond us, intimate God beside us, inner God being us, divine love in action. So as we begin with a moment of prayer this morning, coming together with open hearts and open minds, ready and willing to be transformed by this collective gathering within the presence, love, and light of the God of each of our understanding. We particularly this morning honor the start of Ramadan, which began at sundown this past Thursday. Ramadan, derived from the Arabic word Ramida, which is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, is observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, prayer, reflection, and community. And so, embracing our interfaith tradition, we give thanks for the important lessons we learn from the many spiritual paths in the world, each informing us and making us better disciples of our own way. Ramadan specifically reminds us of the important religious values such as self-discipline, abstinence, charity, and health, that we may deepen our own spiritual practices and disciplines. So honoring this holy month also calls us, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, all of us people of the book, sharing a common heritage, to commit to seeking peace and understanding among our peoples and our nations, as we ultimately seek peace and oneness with all beings and with the earth. And so we close by joining in saying, Ramadan Mubarak. Try and say that with me. Ramadan Mubarak, which is a greeting meaning a blessed month to you. And so it is.
So it is.
And now please join me in our spring quarter affirmation, repeating after me. My heart knows well-being.
My heart knows well-being.
No matter the circumstances.
No matter the circumstances.
Releasing all fear.
Releasing all fear.
I rise.
I rise.
And so now we come to the time when we normally would be blessing the children, and I'm going to invite Reverend Michelle up to share that with you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So glad you're with us this morning. So during this time that we are holding the high watch for our community and aligning with our highest discernment and wisdom, we take this moment to hold all the children, those close to us, our family members and neighbors and friends, as well as the children all around the world and our own inner children in our hearts. And will you please join in our heartfelt blessing? We love you.
We bless you, we appreciate you, just the way you are. This bright light of life, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of life, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of life, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine.
time in our service when we normally have announcements, but I'm going to refer you this morning to our weekly e-blast, or we're now calling our shout out. And all of the announcements are in there, and we just want you to keep your eye on your email, be on the lookout for special updates that may come throughout the week as we are adding more activities and programming. You will be able to stay in touch with all of that through our e-blast. So now we're going to take a moment and begin to focus our attention from all of that outer celebration to that inner blissful connection with Spirit. So taking a deep breath in and letting it out with an audible sigh, we allow all distractions to gently fade away as we invite the chime to call us into the sacred space within. We ring the chime 4 times to call in the 4 directions and to remind us of our interconnection with all of creation and with the sacred circle of life. As we feel it resonate through our very beings, we follow its call into this now present moment within. Continuing to focus on our breath, with each inhale, we open our hearts and minds. We envision our breath reaching every cell of our being. And with each exhale, we see all barriers and obstacles dissolving into the divine flow. And again, as we inhale, we expand the spaciousness within us. We move beyond the limitations and boundaries of our bodies. And as we exhale, we ground ourselves deep within Mother Earth and into our oneness with the universe. Finally, we breathe our awareness into the highest expression of love, light, joy, and peace we can imagine. As we experience a transforming wave of gratitude, and with a fullness of heart, we say yes to it all. Embracing, claiming, and knowing the divine Christ Spirit expressing in, through, and as us. And with a final exhale, we say, thank you, God. Now, fully centered and transformed by the power of Spirit, we enter into our lesson and meditation time, beginning with today's daily word.
And the word is release. I invite you to allow my words to be your words. I release all that does not contribute to my highest good. John's gospel tells of Jesus' restoring life to his friend Lazarus, who had been dead for 4 days. As Jesus cries, "Lazarus, come out!" his friend emerges from the tomb, burial clothes still covering his face and wrapped around his hands and feet. Jesus says to those who have gathered, "Unbind him and let him go." Even after a spiritual resurrection, I may remain bound, like Lazarus, by thoughts, ideas, feelings, or habits that keep me from the full experience of freedom. Through my divine power of elimination, I release negative feelings, dissolve error thoughts, and free myself from habits and actions that do not serve my highest good. I am no longer bound. I am free. And from the scriptures, the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go."
Here I am.
wisdom of the many paths to the sacred, we read from 3 sacred traditions on this morning's topic, Practicing Enlightenment. From Buddhism, when another person makes you suffer, it is because he suffers deeply within himself, and his suffering is spilling over. He does not need punishment. He needs help. Thich Nhat Hanh. From Islam, treat people in such a way and live amongst them in such a manner that if you die, they will weep over you. Alive, they crave for your company. That's a saying from the way of existence. And from Christianity, and as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard this, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice." That's Matthew chapter 9, verses 10 through 13.
I
our musicians, who have granted us, all of us, rights to live stream their music during this novel time. And so that was a song by Denise Rosier, and we also had a song by Daniel Nahmod. And so we're just very grateful that they're allowing their music to be used to fill and uplift our services. And of course, thank you to our musicians as well. So this is part 2 of our 3-part mini-series on practical enlightenment, or how living from and as our Christ self actually shows up in our day-to-day walk. Coming out of our Easter season, where we tend to focus on the mystical interpretation of the resurrection of Christ within each one of us, and finding ourselves in the midst of this unprecedented in modern times pandemic that has us all sheltering in and suspended in a virtual and practical unknown, where our illusions of control have been shattered. As I shared last week, I found myself called to the practical side of the equation that is Unity's spiritual tradition, asking myself, who am I, who are we called to be in the world, and especially in the midst of this time? It's one of the things that I love about Unity, the both-and approach of mysticism and practicality. So without minimizing the mystical, transcendent experience many of us have been blessed to have during the time of meditation or reflection, which admittedly can be a transforming, in a palpable sense, luminosity, expansive love, and a sense of oneness and connection with all that is, without minimizing that, because I've had that experience. In fact, it started me on this spiritual journey. But what we know is it's equally important to translate our understanding of spiritual truth into our daily living. And while a daily prayer, meditation, reflection practice is essential to every committed spiritual path, it's primarily a tool, not the end that we seek. And it's a tool by which we learn to discipline our minds, a skill that's central to our evolving spiritual maturity and our expanding consciousness, as well as to fulfilling our defining spiritual purpose in the world, in our daily living, and as our way of being. For example, it allows us, it supports us, it empowers us to, paraphrasing our way shower Jesus, to love God with all our being and our neighbors as ourselves. Or put in different words, to be one with God and all of creation. Referring in both of these instances to the God of our own understanding, be it divine love, truth, creative force, life force, the divine mind, whatever the words are that invoke in you that sense of that which is greater than all of us. As I noted last week, I am not suggesting that we are fully enlightened, nor attempting to describe what being fully enlightened entails, because we wouldn't know that if we aren't there yet. But rather, I want to talk about what it means to walk or live a path of enlightenment, which involves being committed not so much to the destination, but specifically to the journey, to the practices themselves. And not perfectly, but intentionally. In essence, committed to a path towards spiritual maturity, higher Christ consciousness, and the practices and behaviors and beliefs and commitments that are involved in just such a commitment, including striving to respond and behave in our daily lives with more love, more light, more compassion, more generosity, more courage, and less fear, while also opening our hearts and minds to the highest guidance available in any given situation, and to being transformed. In essence, the expansion of our limited thinking, our capacity for compassion, and our willingness to seek the highest good for all of creation, rather than just being concerned from our ego selves, realizing, as has become the hashtag these days, we're all in this together. Now is a particularly appropriate time to double down on this commitment, because as we know, times of crisis and breakdown, whether personal or collective, and this one happens to be both, offer potential for transformation, because they cast us out of our comfort zones and suspend us in not knowing. And whenever human beings are in not knowing, we're open to receive new insights, to try something new. And regardless of what our worldly roles are in this crisis, we all have the capacity to create a collective consciousness that bends towards enlightenment, towards greater sustainability, towards greater justice, towards greater compassion, peace, life-enhancing education, opportunities, and the good of the whole, as we recognize again, perhaps now more than ever, that we are all in this together. Why don't we all say that together?
We are all in this together.
So last week, I began this mini-series, which is by no means comprehensive or new, but it can serve to encourage and support us and reinforce our practices on this journey in times that can sometimes drag us out of it, that can get us caught up in all that's going on in the world. We started last week reviewing 4 elements that I deemed foundational for any comprehensive practice. They included a commitment to a daily spiritual practice, which doesn't have to involve elaborate rituals or even an extensive amount of time, but does involve committing our lives to something greater than ourselves and living life from that perspective. The second principle was mindful wholeness, which involves striving for physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health and integration, balancing our mind, body, and spirit in order to expand our self-awareness and, again, develop spiritual maturity. The third element was open-mindedness and curiosity. It's no accident that the spiritual journey continually invites us to open our hearts and minds. Growth, by definition, involves a desire to learn, to be curious, a willingness to try on new ideas, and also, as our daily word expressed today, a willingness to release those that no longer serve us. This practice involves the realm of both-and thinking, embracing seeming paradoxes, and developing a capacity to hold conflicting thoughts at the same time, while striving for a higher viewing point that integrates what seem disparate and creates and reveals new insights and miracles. As we know, a miracle is when we shift our perspective from something we thought impossible to the realization that it is true. And finally, the fourth element was practicing patience, forgiveness, and understanding. When we engage in self-reflection, expand our self-awareness, and work to heal our own wounds and traumas, we come to understand that everyone, including us, are doing the best we know how. We're called to practice generosity of spirit that forgives quickly and endures patiently, which creates a space for healing and growth in ourselves and with others. And that's a perfect bridge to the next 4 elements of practical enlightenment and Christ consciousness that I want to explore this morning. And whereas these first 4 describe foundational elements of the spiritual journey, these next 4 describe how we're called to show up in the world, specifically shifting from a me, self-centric point of view of the world to an other inclusive-centric perspective. And it begins with this 5th element, developing our emotional IQ. We touched on this element in our exploration of wholeness last week, but it's important to emphasize that we cannot become spiritually mature or respond and behave in enlightened ways without emotional maturity. Now, this is a broad subject, and it can involve deep work into healing childhood wounds and traumas. But there's also basic, practical side to emotional maturity that we can put into practice with some basic awareness and skill development. For example, accepting others without trying to fix them, which of course requires that we accept ourselves too. How many of you can be there present for someone and not have to see how you can make them just a little bit better? The second is engaging conflict rather than avoiding it, but doing that in healthy ways, with empathy and with the goal of resolution rather than winning. We need to step out of this win-lose box that we always get ourselves in, and then we're able to work through conflicts that arise in our lives. The third is giving without strings attached, meaning expecting nothing in return but the joy and pleasure of being able to give. Another is striving for excellence rather than perfection, In essence, focusing on doing the right things rather than on doing things right or perfectly. Again, it's allowing room for mistakes and growth. There's definitely a pattern here. You'll hear about these things as we behave, that we can grow and learn and expand with all of these practices. The next is not playing the victim card, meaning we take responsibility for our choices, our actions, and our capacity to grow through situations. And finally, the ability to accept constructive criticism without becoming defensive, by being clear about our own strengths and our capacity to improve and grow. I would add to this the realization that our emotional reactions are often linked to our beliefs and assumptions. We don't even feel it, we just feel the emotion come up, but they're really based on some belief we're holding or some expectation that we're holding on to, often unconsciously. To me, that means the emotionally mature individual asks themselves questions like, so what is this reaction all about? I'm feeling upset. Where's that actually coming from? I know I've identified it that this person or that situation made me mad, but taking time to go a little deeper and actually listen to what's going on inside of us. Asking, are my expectations grounded in reality? Asking, have I considered there's a different side to this and tried to understand it? All of these are about ways that we expand our capacity to be present with other individuals. And ultimately, our emotional maturity is a prerequisite for getting our egos in proper submission to our higher selves, and then being able to move into spiritual maturity. The sixth principle is humility. I looked up humility in the dictionary, and many times it's defined as a modest or low view of one's own importance. But a more accurate definition from Merriam-Webster is humility is freedom from pride or arrogance, the quality or state of being humble. Spiritually, to have a low opinion of oneself is the realization that we're no more or no less important than any other being. It's the understanding that every human being is of equal value. And that means we can have healthy self-esteem, accepting ourselves, our qualities as well as our limitations, and still be humble. We can be assertive. Think of Jesus in the marketplace, or dealing with the Pharisees, defending the poor and the needy. So we can be assertive and still be humble. To practice humility requires recognizing and admitting that we're not always right. We would normally have a laughter in here. It's a quiet space, so I can hear you laughing out there in virtual land. I remember one of the skills that my late husband Rory and I learned, put into practice ourselves, and then taught in the couples effective communication classes that we often gave. And that was the sincere response, you may be right. Let's all say that together. You may be right. That's something you need to practice in your mantra if you're accustomed to getting into battles with people. It's a great practice of humility. And what you'll notice is if you just say it because it works to diffuse, you'll actually start believing it. So it's a good affirmation to hold that space. When you say the words, you may be right, you're expanding your own awareness that there may be a different answer. We can cultivate humility in many of the same ways that we seek emotional maturity. For example, spending time listening to others without trying to solve their problems unless we're asked. It's interesting that when we listen to others and then jump in to try and fix things, it becomes about us rather than them. So the practice of humility is to just listen intently with an open heart. It involves practicing mindfulness and focusing on the present without judging or complaining or celebrating, but just allowing each moment to be what it is, rather than placing our expectations on it. Humility is about being grateful for what we have, counting our blessings, appreciating enough, rather than always seeking more. It's about learning to accept and even ask for help. How many of you can ask for help when you need it? For a lot of us, that's a really tough thing to do, but humility allows us to learn to do that, even if we have to kind of choke it out, like, can I help? Can I accept help? And so when someone asks us that we're willing to say, yes, I appreciate that. It also involves asking others for their input and their feedback and hearing it objectively rather than always thinking we have the answers. And finally, it's about consistently checking our actions, our words, and our feelings as well for pride or arrogance or vanity or prejudices, especially if we notice some response from someone else. It's a good idea to check, did that sound a little arrogant, and make corrections. Unfortunately, we're living in an era where public humility is in short supply. So we could all use and be good role models in this practice of spiritual maturity. The seventh element is being loving, kind, and compassionate. When we develop emotional and spiritual maturity, including humility, we internalize the truth that we really are, let's say it all together, all in this together. Life in general, not just this pandemic. This pandemic is becoming a great lesson for us to learn that we really are worldwide all in this together. What affects one is going to affect all of us. It's that butterfly theory that when a butterfly flaps its wings, it actually affects the energy and harmony throughout the earth. When we realize that we're all in this together, it makes behaving in kind and loving ways sort of a natural byproduct of that awareness. The difference between loving kindness and compassion is very subtle, and the two often go together. It might be best explained as seeing loving kindness as our attention and intention for all beings to be happy, whereas compassion is our attention and intention to help alleviate all beings from suffering. Compassion involves deep empathy, not just feeling sorry that someone's hurting, but realizing our commonalities and connecting with rather than avoiding or looking away from their suffering, being willing to feel the pain with them. It could be as simple as making meaningful eye contact with a homeless person, taking time to see their humanity and their suffering, to have a conversation, to engage, even if it's making us feel uncomfortable or making us feel sad in ways because we can't fix it. That's true humility and compassion. And often it's a more powerful gift than any handout that we could give the individual. Finally, walking the path of enlightenment, striving to be and live our Christ potential, is about leadership. We're called to be an example, inspiring rather than trying to control others, standing in and for our principles. In short, seeking justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly with our God, our truth, our oneness. Namaste.
Namaste.
Go
right here, right now, right where we are, we pray. So I invite you, wherever you are, listening to this broadcast, to just take a few moments to be still and spend some quiet moments in contemplation and meditation with us. As Vicky said, a spiritual practice does not have to be complicated. It doesn't have to involve any special equipment or trappings. It merely requires our honest intention to spend time connecting with the God of each of our understanding. So wherever you are now, get comfortable. If it's comfortable, close your eyes or simply lower your gaze. Begin to make your body comfortable, sitting in an upright way but relaxed. Scanning quickly through your body to find places where maybe you can let go a little bit, letting the shoulders fall back and down, letting the hands rest gently on your lap, allowing your forehead to relax and be smooth, unclenching the jaw, and settling ever deeper into this now moment. Now bringing our full awareness to this time, into this present moment, and aware of this body sitting here, aware of our breath, that simple breath always with us, relaxing with each inhale, relaxing with each exhale. And as you become more fully aware of this present moment and your body sitting here breathing, I invite you now to bring an awareness to your heart area. It can help to support that awareness to place a hand over your heart if that's comfortable. Begin to just bring that focus to that area. And as you continue breathing in and out slowly, breathe that life-giving oxygen into your heart. Feeling that heart area becoming energized, that inherent wisdom and knowing that resides in our heart space being activated. You might even see it as an energy, a light. And just beginning to see that energy and that light expanding from the heart space out to every part of your body. Blessing all of your body, your cells, your organs. Blessing every part of you with that loving, healing heart space energy. And I invite you to just repeat silently in your head and saying to yourself now, may you be well. May you be free from suffering. May you be at peace. Continue breathing in and out gently from that heart space. Now I invite you to call to mind all of the people in your life, family, friends, loved ones that you may be missing greatly right now, unable to be physically present with, unable to hug or touch. Hold them in your awareness, all of those dear ones, and see that love energy expanding out from your heart to encompass them and to bless them. As you repeat silently, may you be well. May you be free from suffering. May you be at peace. Now I invite you to call to mind all of those folks around the world who are working extra hard right now to keep all of us safe. The doctors, nurses, EMTs, first responders, hospital staff, as well as all kinds of workers, those picking our food, those bringing our food to the stores and those selling it to us, all of those folks who are unable to shelter at home and are out there working hard to provide us with everything we need. Just holding them also in that loving heart space, seeing them blessed by this loving energy. As you repeat silently, may you be well. May you be free from suffering. May you be at peace. And continue breathing in and out of that heart space. Now I invite you to just envision our whole planet. All of the beings living all around our planet. People, animals, plants, trees, the rivers, the forests, the oceans, the skies. Holding our beloved planet, seeing it rejuvenated, returning, restoring itself to health and wholeness, seeing it jubilant and celebrating as the skies become clear and the waters become clear and the birds are singing again. Holding our whole planet in our hearts as you repeat silently, may you be well. May you be free from suffering. May you be at peace. And so I invite you now to just continue that gentle awareness of that radiating center of love and healing that is your human heart, as you rest gently for a few moments in the silence. As we begin now to prepare to bring this time of meditation and contemplation to a close, I invite you to do so with a greater awareness of that heart space. That heart that has its own intelligence and wisdom, and that we can learn to check in with at any time. Learning to live more and more of our lives from that space. That open-hearted awareness, allowing ourselves to be guided in every action that we take from that loving space, and using that energy to bless ourselves, to bless those around us, and to bless our world.
I feel my love.
so we bring this time to a close by just acknowledging again that heart space and by allowing it to fill with gratitude for this time, for this communion with one another, for this technology that allows us to connect across time and space. We are grateful and we say thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
Thank you, God. And so it is.
Thank you, Reverends Vicky and Michelle, for these amazing messages today. May we all be well. So Unity of Monterey Bay is the collective consciousness and commitment of all of us here who give of our time, treasure, and talent in order to sustain the spiritual community that is dedicated to transforming lives. We know that prosperity is a state of mind that finds blessings in every situation and abundance in joyous generosity. We transform all appearance of fear or lack into the faith-filled peace of mind by shifting our attention to thoughts of gratitude for the abundance of God's good in our lives. And with our hearts and minds overflowing with gratitude, we breathe into the divine flow of God's good, trusting that we are enough, that we have enough, and that there always is enough to both have and to share. And again, we are grateful for all of you, for your online giving through our website at unityofmontereybay.org, and through your mailed-in offerings, including those who have set up an automatic giving with your banking institutions. We are truly blessed. And now, from this place of faith and gratitude, I invite you to join me in mindful intention and joining in our offertory blessing.
I am an open channel for God's infinite good. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies everything I give and everything I receive. I am both blessed and a blessing. Thank you, God.
Okay, we just wanted to acknowledge again that was another one of the Empower musicians, and it was
Elaine Silver.
Elaine Silver.
Yes.
And what's the song called?
Soul to soul.
Soul to soul. There you go.
Yeah.
So again, giving thanks for the ability to use all of these songs in our broadcast so that we can continue to bring music to you and make it a greater celebration. So if this has been your first time with us today, we would like to welcome you to our Unity of Monterey Bay community this morning, and we are grateful for this opportunity to connect with you and with all of our Unity community and friends. We hope that you feel at home here and that you feel that this is a place that accepts you wherever you are in your spiritual journey, which is what we strive to create. And so, once again, we are just so glad that you joined us this morning, or whenever you're watching this. Our unityofmontereybay.org website has a prayer request link. Please use it. Our chaplains are now meeting weekly to more fully and more intentionally hold the high watch for our community. And so as prayers come into us through various ways during the week, we are holding all of those prayers in...
Zoom.
What's that?
On Zoom.
Yes, we're meeting on Zoom. We're meeting on Zoom. We're not meeting in actual person. We are honoring the social distancing and we are having our prayer time on Zoom. But we continue to hold the high watch. Just know that we are continuing to hold the high watch for this community, that we are intentionally holding those prayer requests that come in. And, we say that we are a prayer-conditioned church, and our movement began with prayer. And so we are honoring that tradition and keeping that prayer practice alive during this time that we are not physically together. So on our website, you can email us, you can message us, various ways that you can get a hold of us. Rev Vicky and myself are also available via email. Please do not hesitate to contact us. And don't forget to avail yourself of our wonderful Silent Unity, which is available 24/7. If you don't know what Silent Unity is, you can call them up and they will immediately pray with you any time of day or night. It's a wonderful resource for us to use during this time to reach out and feel connected. We will also be having our virtual coffee and fellowship time on Zoom after the service today, beginning at about 11:15. Look at that, we're right on time. That doesn't happen too often around here. So the link for that was in your weekly shout out. So go ahead and join us. It's so great to be able to see one another's faces, even if it is on the computer screen. But we're grateful for that. So, with all of that, I just invite you to hold, once again, our community, all those in our community that have special prayer needs, all of our loved ones and friends and family, and our whole planet in our heart during this difficult time as we together say our prayer for protection. And you can just imagine in your mind that circle that we form every week, because we're still doing it. It's not a complete circle, but it's here, and we are continuing to hold this space. And we hold all of you in our hearts as well. Please join me in our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. yes to life.
I say yes to life.
I say yes to love.
I say yes to
And
love.
I say yes to God.
And I say yes to God.
And let me add, may you be well, may you be free from suffering, and may you be at peace. And so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.